even after coming out here every day for the past 4.5 months, I never get tired of this view. So if any of you saw the most recent video that I posted about getting scammed, you'll notice I mentioned I'm in Alaska. And that's because about 4.5 months ago, I made the biggest move of my life, moving all the way from Texas to Alaska, and specifically the DFW area up to right around Fairbanks. As a professional musician, I'd say that when I started talking to people in Texas about this move potentially, I was met with primarily a mixture of what I would say shock and concern from people. And it was pretty funny because anytime I mentioned the thought of moving to Alaska, I got this comment so many times I could predict what people would say. They'd say, "Alaska, it's so cold in Alaska." I was like, thank you, I didn't know that. Thank you for that information. But it just goes to show that people can speak out of their ignorance. When people don't know anything about a certain topic, they immediately go to all that they know about it, which in this case is almost nothing. And I knew almost nothing about Alaska. I had no intention of living here. It's never been a place that was on my list other than, I'd like to visit here. I'd like to vacation here. A lot of people like to do that in Alaska, take a cruise or whatever because it's beautiful. But I guess the story all starts around the pandemic. I graduated in 2020 with my doctorate in musical arts and piano performance. Of course, that was the time when everything shut down and things were really crazy for musicians. I lost almost all my students. I lost all of my gigs. Very difficult time financially. And, that's when I started the music studio. It's when I started getting into recording off the grid. And I started applying, naturally, for teaching positions all across the country. I didn't really care where. And, I applied for maybe 30 or 40 different teaching positions across the U.S. And I only got past the first round of applicants in maybe 2 or 3 applications. One of them was in North Dakota. One of them was in Iowa. One of them was in Fairbanks, Alaska, the University of Fairbanks. But even though I got to the final rounds in those, I didn't actually get the job. And so I thought nothing of it. I thought, okay, well, I didn't get that. But the funny thing was, specifically with this Alaska job, after I didn't get the job, I kept having dreams about moving to Alaska. Like, I had over 20 dreams over the course of a maybe 3-month period. And I just couldn't shake it. It was really strange to me. I feel like dreams are the way that God kind of points me in a certain direction sometimes. I actually moved to New York when I lived there, partly because of dreams. I moved to Texas partly because of dreams, and now I'm here. I know that sounds kind of strange to most people in the modern era, but when you study history, when you study the way that most cultures were around the world, throughout all of history, people have placed much more of an emphasis on these things, so it's only in the modern era that we disregard these and don't really think about it. I guess I'm kind of more old school than normal in that sense. And it's not like I moved here just on a blind whim because I had these dreams. I don't want people to think like, oh, I just had some dream and moved to Alaska. No, I did my due diligence and I started researching. And the thing that I noticed when I started looking at Alaska, first off, I actually decided to take a trip up here. Had some saved up flight miles, and my wife convinced me because she's like, you won't stop talking about this and you won't be at peace about it until you actually visit and see for yourself. So I did. I was here over a year ago in December. I chose to come when it was cold and dark because I didn't want any sort of romantic delusions about the beauty of Alaska. I wanted to experience it when it was cold and dark. But the Airbnb owner, turns out, was a community band director and a military band director. He'd been doing that for decades. His wife was in the orchestra. So right from the get-go, I'm meeting musicians. They told me, oh, we have a grand piano in our house if you need to practice on it. Start getting referrals. I think the number one thing that set Fairbanks area apart from other areas that I was looking to move to was that anytime I reached out to people, emailed them, called them, texted them, music faculty, people working in the music industry, I would get responses. And that was surprising to me. Even the dean of the music department immediately responded to me, wanted to meet me, and meet my wife, because she's also a musician. And I kept hearing the same thing over and over from people. It was a sentence that I've never heard in my life. I lived in big city, Los Angeles, New York, and then Dallas area. And so my paradigm has always been major cities. But in Fairbanks, they said, oh, we need more pianists. We need more piano teachers. We need more pianists. We need more good musicians here. I had never heard that in my life. Nobody ever says we need more pianists in New York City or in Dallas. It just doesn't happen. The University of North Texas, where I got my doctorate, where I met my wife, it's the largest music school in the entire country. It's over 1,600 music majors, and that is not including University of Dallas, SMU, lots of other great music schools, TWU, TCU. And so anytime there's a musical opening, yes, there are opportunities in these big cities, but what everyone likes to talk about are the opportunities. Everybody forgets that there's also competition that comes with those opportunities. And so here, I'm finding there is more demand than supply. It's a huge difference. And so ever since I moved here, I've already gotten plenty of musical opportunities. I'm working with a few different local choirs, and I'm the interim music director at a church. Probably going to sign on more of a permanent position in March. And I've already played some amazing shows with many more people in attendance than I would have had in Texas. And it's just interesting because in Texas I lived there for almost 7 years, and I tried so hard, especially after graduating. My wife and we renovated our house. I built my own music studio. And it's just so difficult to get students, to get gigs. And, people would contact me, and if you want music lessons, they'd contact me, but then they'd be contacting 15 other people. And so it's sort of a race to the bottom of, well, you're charging this much money, and the person down the street is charging less, so I'll go with the person down the street. And always just a race to the bottom as far as, oh, how much can you lower your prices? I didn't want to just keep indefinitely lowering the prices. So here, again, there's just more demand than there is supply. As for the cold, ironically, it's been one of the warmest winters in a long time in Fairbanks, so it hasn't really been an issue at all for me. Yes, it gets cold. The coldest I experienced was negative 33 degrees. But I will take this cold any day over 110 degree humid heat in Texas. It doesn't even cool down at night. You're just constantly drenched in sweat. I'm not a fan of that. Apparently people really hate the cold. But, different things for different people. For me, it's fine. And, I haven't even experienced the summer here. I'm really looking forward to it, because if I like it in the winter, I figure it's going to be even better in the summer. Oh, it looks like we have a little friend on the road here. I'm going to go say hi to him and see if I can make friends with it. Hey there. What, you're afraid of me? I met you before. You don't remember me? Nah. Not too sure. Oh, well. The thing that's also crazy is the timing of it all. I knew that I needed to move before winter hit, so we chose to move in September. And it's crazy, my wife's pregnant. We're about to have our first child in about a month. And so, of course, people are saying, oh, maybe you should just wait. But honestly, it's getting a little bit warm. But my wife and I both knew that when opportunity knocks, you kind of need to take it. And we had both been talking about leaving Texas. Texas is good in a lot of ways, but so many of the things that we initially liked about Texas seem to be changing. When I moved there back in 2017, it was a lot smaller. People were a lot nicer. And after the pandemic, you had about 1 million people who moved into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And you can really feel, if you're in that area, just the infrastructure can't handle it. It's getting a lot more crowded. People are getting a lot more antsy, and it just feels more like the big city. It feels more like Los Angeles. It feels more like New York. It still has its Texas flavor, of course, but you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like that small town vibe. And I just like the sense of community that you get here. I also think that Fairbanks isn't really in danger of becoming so overcrowded in the same way because people hate the cold. And at this point in my life, I've moved so many different times. I've actually lived in over 25 different locations within California, New York, and Texas. So I've moved so much that I feel like I'm at a point where I definitely know the things that I want, the things that I can live with, the things that really bother me. And I like how this is just big enough of a city where you can get everything that you want, but there's no traffic, which is huge. So I don't waste time in traffic. And this is the most naturally beautiful place I've ever lived. I mean, California is definitely a beautiful state, but again, it's overcrowded. And so it just feels different here. I go outside and it's hard not to feel better when you're just surrounded by this nature all the time. Most importantly too, when I was getting a lot of people warning me not to do this, people mean well, and people will go with what they think is common sense or conventional wisdom. But again, everyone's situation is different. Put a lot of prayer into this, put a lot of time and effort. And I tried to research as much as possible. Having moved to different places, I'm also aware of the different stages of culture shock, which is an important concept for anyone who is planning on moving to a new area. I wish I had researched more about that before I made my first big move to New York, because that would have helped me a lot, knowing about those types of culture shock. I don't know, maybe that might be a concept for another video. I think these are moose tracks on the ground. I could be mistaken about that. And now one of the best things about me living here is the fact that I am, for the first time in my life, making more decent money, more of a decent income. I'm not, I think, what you would call wealthy by any means. We've still got debt we need to pay off, like most people in our age category who went to way too much higher education. However, I'm working in the right direction. And now I actually have more time to pursue the art that I want to pursue, to learn pieces. I've been working on this Rachmaninoff arrangement for so long, and now I'm closing in on finally finishing it. The church that I'm at has a Steinway grand piano, so I'm able to practice on that. And it's also got an organ, so I'm back to playing the organ. So just a lot of cool things happening in musical development. I'm constantly meeting people who are in the orchestra, have potential chamber music opportunities coming up, and concert opportunities. So all around, it's been tremendous. And I don't want to give the impression that it's been all 100% smooth sailing, because there definitely have been challenges along the way. And I can talk about those in another video as well. But I have certainly not regret this decision. Anyways, you guys, I know that's been quite the ramble. If you stayed with me for this long, thank you. I've got more videos coming up, more content headed your way. So I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.